here, and today what I'm going to talk to you about is a new idea I've got about job hunting. I recently wrote a blog and I want to expand on that a little bit for you. And the blog was all about how if you're out job hunting, maybe what you shouldn't be hunting for is a job, and what you should be hunting for is a boss. Okay, and I'm not just being clever by swapping a few words around and going, oh, okay, go boss hunting instead of job hunting. There's a method to my madness. There usually is. Not always. There's no method or to the madness of this haircut, for instance, but usually there's a method to my madness. And here's what I'm thinking. A job is an inanimate object, okay? It's not something you can pick up or have a look at. It's something you go and do. It's not something you can kind of find and get. Right? You don't go down the street and go, oh, look, there's a job going past, or there's a job down the back of the couch or something like that. Whereas if I was to say to you, hey, where do you think you might meet your next boss? Okay, it's a very different prospect. And you go, okay, well, that's an actual person. Bosses are actual people most of the time anyway. And so suddenly it gives you a whole range of ideas about how you might be able to go and meet the next person who is going to employ you, or maybe the first person who's going to employ you for that matter. And I think it's a really important distinction to make, because if I say go and find a job, there's no question there'll be a few things that come to mind, like I'm going to go and look on that job website or something like that. But it's actually a short list. There's only a certain amount of places that you can find a job, right? Because it's not a thing. Whereas there's lots of different ways you can go about finding and meeting your next boss. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about. And of course, the way you do that is by meeting as many people as you can who are in the industry you want to be in, that might one day employ you or know someone who will. And that's the trick here, is if your total industry contacts, let's say you only know 6 people in the industry at the moment, and let's say those people are senior people or people who are capable of hiring someone like yourself. Okay, if you only know 6 people, you have to wait for one of them to need to employ someone like you. And if they've just employed someone, or they're a small business, or the people who work there don't leave very often, you could be waiting forever. Whereas if you know 100 people in the industry, your chances are astronomically higher that someone in that group is going to want to hire someone like you a lot sooner. And that's what this is about. I'd love to tell you that in a perfect world, well, no, I will tell you in a perfect world that your enthusiasm and your talent and your experience and your good looks is what's going to get you a job. But take a look around. This isn't a perfect world, right? Far from it. So often what's going to get you that job is who you know and not what you know, or probably a combination of both. But that who you know part is really important. And of course, when you're starting out, whether it's because you're young or you're trying to break into a new industry, it's completely normal that you wouldn't know a lot of people in that industry that you're trying to get into. But that's part of your job now, okay, is to go and find your next boss. And how do you do that? You do that by meeting as many people as you can. And I hate to use this word, because as soon as I say it, half of you are going to go and die inside, but you're going to do it by doing that thing called networking. Okay, and I know that's a crappy word and it's cringeworthy, and it sort of conjures up ideas of Amway and doing all this sort of high pressure kind of difficult stuff where you've got to kind of go up and meet people that you've never met before and all that sort of thing. So let's call it something different. Let's just call it expanding your group of friends or your contacts or your connections. Let's go with connections, okay? So you don't have to go networking, you just have to build your connections. I'm not going out networking tonight, I'm going out to build some connections, okay? It's a much nicer way because you don't have to use the N word, the networking word, okay? And of course, here's the thing, the more people you meet, the more opportunities you get, the more well-known you get, and the more likely you are to find a job. But more importantly, the more likely you are to find your next boss. So that's why I say maybe you should be out there boss hunting, not job hunting. Because of course, sometimes you'll get a job when there wasn't even one available. It never makes it to the website, right? All the best jobs get taken before they advertise. If they have to advertise, it's because they don't already have 1,000 people banging their doors down, asking for it. And if it was a good job, of course they're going to have a heap of people who are already trying to get that job. So quite often the good ones never get advertised. That's why go earlier than when the job's available and go hunting for a boss by building your connections, i.e. networking. Now, here's the thing. Most people will just say, yeah, go networking. You'll go, okay, yeah, I got to go networking. And then you'll walk away and you'll go, Oh, what do I do now? How do I do that? You know, whatever. Well, here's what I'm going to do for you. A little while ago, I had to give a presentation where I spoke to a group of people and gave them my top 10 networking tips, or my top 10 connection building tips. And if you're into social media, I guess building connections and circles and all that sort of thing is completely sort of normal terminology these days. So I gave them my top 10 tips, and that's what I'm going to do for you right now. My top 10 connection building tips are this.